You should see in the top left a flashing red button saying that it's being recorded. And so since it's being recorded for others to access later, you want to keep any kind of comments, you know, things that you wouldn't mind being made public. So telling me that you or your girlfriend are pregnant or whatever, this isn't probably the forum where you want to do that. I also will be posting this on um, YouTube for people who aren't able to be here with the live session. So, and also, as you can see, right here, you know, type your questions in the chat area. We've been using that. I keep an eye on that in order to see if you have questions. I'm not sure where you've put the chat area on your screen, but those of you down below, if you're viewing this as a recording, you'll need to record your answers on paper. The poll will not work for you. And in a few minutes, what I'll do is I'll be showing a question, and I'll open a poll, and everybody here who's live can give it an answer. Your answers are anonymous. Nobody knows how you answered, so don't be afraid to be incorrect. But those of you viewing this as a recording won't be able to record an answer, obviously, because it's a recording you're looking at. And then when it looks like everybody has answered, I sort of show you the results of the poll and explain why a particular answer is correct or incorrect. So let me see if I have something else. Yeah. So the goal of psychology that is most concerned with using psychological knowledge to help bring about desirable, what the heck just happened? Let me try this again. To help bring about desirable behavioral outcomes is what? Let me open the poll. And as you can see, whoops, wait a minute. Did the poll pop up on your screen? No, it didn't. Wait a minute. There we go. Okay. So for this question, is your answer 1, 2, 3, or 4? And all you have to do is hit the little square there to register your answer, and we'll be good to go. So the goal of psychology that's most concerned with using psychological knowledge to help bring about desirable behavioral outcomes is what? I can't talk tonight for some reason. Oops. I'm seeing a message from Nicole. Nicole, can you hear me? Of course, if she can't hear me, she can't answer that question. Yes, okay. That's a good answer. Thank you. Oh, didn't see the poll at first. Okay, thank you. Let me put that up. Okay, looks like 20 out of 29 of you have put in a vote so far. We'll wait a couple more seconds. We're up to about 23 now. And I'll give it. I don't know if anybody saw Gregory's comment. For those of you who weren't in my section this morning with Gregory, he was the one who got to read the Cambridge University Gumbly Goops Um, Megan can't do the poll. I'm not sure. Uh, Megan, did the poll pop up on your screen? Huh. Keep getting disconnected. Ugh. Using a web browser on a different device. So, are you using like a smartphone or something? Is that what Megan's doing? Because I have not. I I own a flip phone. She's on a computer. Okay. Boy, that's a difficult one there. I don't know a good answer. And on an HP laptop, uh, I'm on an HP desktop, and I have what do I have? I have a laptop running right next to me as well, and that seems to have gotten uh, the poll okay. And I need to go ahead and show you the results here. So I'm going to end the poll right now and share the results. Let me do something here. So as I share the results, you should be able to see that number 2 and number 4, 31% voted for number 2, 31% voted for number 4. And I'm going to check the board survey says, oh, I can shrink that. That's interesting. Survey says the correct answer is actually number 4, influence. I think the first day of class, I explained to you we have 4 activities that we do in psychology. We describe behavior, we try to explain it, we try to predict maybe who is going to be violent or not, and we try to influence behavior. When I'm doing therapy with somebody, I'm trying to influence what they're doing. If they want to quit smoking, if they want to improve their mood, we try to work together to improve or to influence their behavior. So the best answer there for that first question is number 4, influence. By the way, I may have mentioned this, but if you're viewing this as a recording, you will not be able to see the results of the poll, but I will read them to you so that you can kind of see how you compared to everybody else who. Uh, I'm just reading the chat area here. Should I just record my answers on paper? If that's what you want to do, Megan, yeah, you won't apparently be able to vote in the poll for some reason. Um, if you use your smartphone, you can download an app and it works. Okay, that's good to hear. I use a flip phone, so I have no clue what an app is. I always thought people were saying you take a nap, NAP. So that's how out of touch I am. So, okay, I'm going to relaunch the poll. Oh, if you're using Internet Explorer, different browser, I use Firefox. That's an interesting, Olivia, that's a great piece of input maybe for somebody, um, especially for the next time. So, okay, let me relaunch the poll. That will, oh, Chrome. Yeah. Okay, don't do any voting yet. And I'm going to bring up another question for you. So, this next question, you read in the newspaper that the oldest living person in the world was born in 1879. This strikes you as a coincidence because that is the year that in which historians tell us that modern experimental psychology was born, Wilhelm Wundt was born, psychologists defined the soul, the behaviorist movement began. What is the best answer for this question? And I'm hoping you're kind of getting on to how how this works. When a new question pops up, I kind of have to move the poll out of my window a little bit so I can read the thing. I don't know if that's how your experience is as well. But then you can move the poll back in your view and register your response. It looks like we have 19 people out of about 31. Um, oh, okay. Yeah, locked into this window, but can move stuff around. Yeah, yeah, you should be able. The background is a PowerPoint that I'm sharing, but the chat and the polls you should be able to move around in your window. Yep. Okay. Good. Good to see. I do understand how these things work, even though I'm an old man. Okay. We have 27 votes in, so I'm going to end the polling. Let you see how people voted, and I'll share the results here. And for those of you looking at this as a uh, recording, 48 people answered number one, and 33% went for number two. And we're going to check. That was your daughter. Okay, no problem. I'm glad nothing, we didn't want her to over the internet to happen. So anyway, let's check the answer for this question. And as you can see, in 1879, that's when modern experimental psychology was born. Wilhelm Wundt started his first laboratory in 1879. I think he was born in, I don't know, 1829 or something like that. Maybe even later than that. I know I looked it up on that prime source Wikipedia, but he was born much earlier than 1879. So the correct answer is number one for this question. Okay, so let me relaunch the poll. So it's going to clear the results, and you can move it out of your screen because I'm bringing up another question here. Question from chapter 2. Question being, an activist stops people at a shopping mall and asks them questions about their attitudes toward gun control. Which research technique is being used in this example? So go ahead and pick 1, 2, 3, or 4, depending on whether you're seeing this as a recording or if you're at the live version, you can just vote right away. And looks like 19 people have registered to vote already out of 32. Yeah, we're up to 24 out of 32. 26. Counting down, a few more seconds here. About 28 out of 32. If you haven't voted, put it in there. 5, 4, no pressure. 3, 2, 1. Okay, going to end the poll and share the results with you. It looks like 79% went for number one, which is, in fact, the correct answer. So if you were viewing this as a recording, you should have said, hey, it's a survey. Case study, that's where we study just one person. Naturalistic observation, who was that? Jane Goodall went to live with the apes in the wood, in the jungle in Africa, and that would be naturalistic observation. And an experiment, we, with an experiment, we have dependent and independent variables. I think I may have a question about that in a few minutes here. So, okay, let me relaunch the poll. And you should have a clean slate there ready for a next question. And let's go with the next, whoops. Oh, that's interesting. they changed my controls here as a host, and apparently when I have the laser pointer on, I can't advance my slide. So let's try this one. Ooh, correlation coefficients. And you will want to understand these. Which of the following correlation coefficients shows or expresses the strongest relationship between two variables? Which one of those is showing the strongest relationship between two variables? And it looks like 9 people. We're up to 17 all of a sudden. 50% of you, sort of. So we'll give it a few minutes. Again, those of you on the recording, viewing the recording, just are able to write your answer down on a piece of paper, and I'll be bringing up the correct answer in just a few minutes here. Less than a few minutes, few seconds, because we have about 26 people have weighed in, 27 out of 33, 32. So I'm going to end the poll here. And yep, there's number 28. 29, hey, new record. Okay. And as I share the results, it looks like we have a tie between number 2 and number 4. And boy, let me reveal the correct answer, which is number 4. And remember, when we're looking at, let me move things out of the way here a little bit. When we're looking at the, when we're looking at the, yikes, here we go. When we're looking at the strength of a relationship, we're actually looking at what number is closest to, anybody remember what the strongest correlation coefficients, there's actually 2 of them. You want to type in the chat area? Yeah, Maddie, from 1 to -1. So as we look at the possibilities here, the strongest one, the closest one to -1 actually is -0.90 here. And the second strongest one actually would be -0.39 because it's close to a -1. Yeah, from the right side of the U there, Gregory's remembering I drew a U shape on the board, and let me see if I can do something here. If you remember, I drew something like this, and I put -1, whoops, 0.0 over here, and I put plus, well, I didn't put a plus sign, but 1 over here, and if it's up in here, it's strong. What's at the bottom? Anybody want to type in? Yeah, 0 goes down here. Oh boy, that's a terrible 0, and that means it's weak. W-E-A, that's supposed to be a, this is the first time I've used these new controls. So yeah, if something's down here, 0.10, be down in this area here, 0.10, and 0.32 would be over here, and it's still weak. Up here is strong, up at the top. So you probably want to make sure you understand that when you're taking the test. Some of you I know are taking the test on Tuesday. Some of you are taking the test on Wednesday, since we have people from all of my 3 sections present here tonight, or actually viewing the recording. So, okay, looking at the chat area. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anybody's question here. Good. And okay. Um, locks into English. Okay. Um, if you do have a question on anything, I'm always looking at that chat area. Again, that's only available if you're here at the live session. So let me doc. So regardless of whether or not the coefficient is positive or negative, whatever is closer to 1 or -1, that's the strongest. Anybody want to answer Ryan's question for him? Yep. Haneen, yep, yep. Ryan, you're right on the ball there. The closer it gets to 1 or -1, it means it's stronger. The sign only tells you which side of the actually whether it's a negative correlation. Remember, negative correlation, one's going up, one variable's going up, and what's the other one doing? Coming down. That's a negative correlation. And if they're both going up at the same time, that's what would be a positive correlation. So over on the left-hand side here, it's getting pretty complicated over here, but it means that both go up at the same time. And if it's on the negative side right here, it means one went up while the other one was coming down. Okay, so let me just, I see 6 new messages that I want to, okay, yep, yep, okay, good, good. The closer the better. If it's weak, the closer the better, but if it is weak, it will help to tweak the ways to get better results. Sort of, kind of. It just, if you remember my smoking correlations, the unfiltered camels probably strongly correlated with cancer, whereas smoking pot may not be so strongly correlated, but young minds should not be exposed to THC. So, okay, let's go on to another question here. Relaunch the poll so that you get a blank slate. And I think I have to clear my screen here. Let me, okay, there we go. And let's go on to another question. Okay, so hopefully that's another question. The only research method that can be used to draw a cause and effect relationship between two variables is what? Correlation, case study, experiment, survey. So what's the only research method that we can use? This is again from chapter 2. Which research method can be used to draw a cause and effect relationship between two variables? And it looks like we have 19 up to 23, 25 out of 34 of you. Some new people have joined us. Welcome. And if you're on the recording, you, like I said, can just write down your answer here. And since 30 out of about 35 of us have put in a response, we're up to 32 now. I'm going to end the poll and let you see the results of the poll. And for those of you with the recording, 63% answered number 3. And in second place with 31% was number 1. And check the board. Survey says correct answer is an experiment. In fact, Maybe you remember what I taught when I talked about correlation. Correlation does not mean, again, use the chat area. Let's see who's got the quickest fingers. Correlation does not mean what? Nigel, quick on the ball there. Yeah. Correlation does not mean cause. Oof. Correlation does not mean oof, according to Gregory. Thank you for sharing that. Um, no, correlation does not mean causation. I wasn't fat. Oh, okay. Um, when we do an experiment, the way we sort of manipulate those variables lets us say that something causes something. But when we see two things are correlated, we can't say A caused B. We can only say they were related. Okay, let me clear your poll. You should have a new poll in the middle of your screen there. And let me give you a new question here. And whoops, wait a minute. Okay, yeah. Which provides a baseline measure of behavior for comparing whether or not the independent variable had an effect on a dependent variable. This one's a little tricky, maybe. I'm not sure. Give it a shot. And actually, well, I was going to say we were unanimous with the correct answer, but we've got a few went in a different direction. So we're up to about 15 people have answered so far. What provides a baseline measure for behavior for comparing whether or not the independent variable had an effect on the dependent variable? Yeah, looks like we're up to 21 have put in a response. 25 out of about 30. I think we have 34 people have joined us. So about 80% have put in a vote. So I'm going to end the poll. Let you see that if I share the results there you can see, and for those of you on a recording, 60% voted for number 2, the control group. And 30% went for number 1, the experimental group. And about 10% went for number 4, randomly assigned group. The correct answer is the control group. The control group gets nothing. And so they give us sort of a baseline measure of what's going on, and the independent variable maybe. Well, I think I told you about the baby chick experiment where we gave testosterone to little baby chicks, and maybe we would have had a group that got no injection at all, and that would be the control group to compare the groups to. We also did compare one group to another, the low testosterone, medium, and high level of testosterone too, but control group, basically they get nothing. I noticed a couple of you answered that the randomly assigned group, if you remember, when we do put people into groups, we want to randomly assign them to each of our different groups, depending on how many we want. We do randomly assign them, but the control group gets no no treatment at all. Nothing happens to them. Experimental groups, actually, they may have different things happening to them depending on which group they're in. Low, medium, high testosterone, or what was my other? What's the best time to read something if you want to remember it better? Some groups read at 11 a.m., 3 p.m., 11 p.m. Those are our groups that, yep, 11 a.m. Boy, you guys will go to your grave remembering that one probably. If I taught you nothing else, that probably sticks with you. So, okay, let me clear the, whoops, yeah, clear the screen, and I'm going to relaunch the poll. Yeah, uh, when you get food, if you're hungry, you're not going to learn anything. Okay, so whoops, stop share results. Whoops, there we go. Okay, now you should have gotten a new poll, and let me give you another question. See if it's from chapter 2 or not. Oh, which is correct? This one's just for fun. People usually fall in love with someone very different from themselves. In other words, opposites attract. And A is 1, B is 2. Again, this is just for fun. What do you think the research shows about this? That people fall in love with someone very different from themselves. Would that be true or false? And since we're not really studying this one, we're a minute in, so I'm going to share the results with you. And 63% said true, and 37% said false. Um, and in, interestingly enough, the research shows that we tend to fall in love with someone similar to ourselves. And if you think about it, um, I don't know, is there still goth movement around or anything like that? Let's say somebody's goth and somebody is cowboy, western kind of person. Where the heck are they going to meet? Um, and so we're actually more likely to fall in love with somebody similar to ourselves because that's who we're likely to meet. Um, oh yeah, emo. I forgot about that. Yeah. But again, aren't you more likely to search for people who are kind of similar to yourself? My I'm a psychologist. My wife is a social worker, and we both have jobs at Hack right now, which uh, we work at different campuses, but I think we're very similar in a lot of things we do. Okay, let me give you another question here. Yeah, as I look at it, but the research seems to support the idea that we fall in love with people who are similar to ourselves too, for some reason. Okay, um, where am I going here? Next question. That's where I'm going. That's right. Okay. Uh, what's correct? Again, this is just a fun one. It's an optical illusion when the moon appears larger on the horizon than it does when it is overhead. True or false? Again, not going to spend a whole lot of time on this one. I'm not sure how somebody got 3 for this one, but one is true, 2 is false. So, let me just show you how everybody answered here. And as you can see, 69% said true. It's an optical illusion, and 31% said false. And if we check the board, it is true because the moon doesn't grow or shrink. It's just when it's on the horizon, there's trees and houses around it. It actually makes it look bigger. But when it gets up in the middle of the sky, there's nothing around it to really make it look large. And it didn't shrink when it rose in the sky. Um, so it's an optical illusion. So the correct answer there is true there. Okay, I think I have some questions from chapter 3 here. Let me give you a fresh poll and give you a new question as well. Oops. And here we go. The part of the neuron responsible for carrying the neutral I'm sorry, for carrying the neural message from the cell body to the terminal buttons is the what? What part of the neuron carries the message from the cell body to the terminal buttons? Is it the soma, dendrite, axon, glial cells? These questions will not be on the test. They're not exact questions, but you will find in these questions information that will be helpful to know when you're taking the test. So, looking at my poll here, looks like 27 people have answered so far. Again, if you're on the recording, you just jot down your answer, something like that. And I'm going to end the poll here. We're up to 29 and share the results with you. And as you can see, 83% said number 3, the axon. And if we do, in fact, check the correct answer, yeah, the axon is the part of the neuron that carries the message from the cell body to the terminal buttons. And oops, let me see if I can, if you remember, we had out here dendrites, and what was that? The cell body sort of right here. And there's that long axon. And at the tail end of these things are those terminal buttons. And they spit out certain chemicals. And I covered a couple of them that might be helpful to know at some point in the future. So, okay, let me get my lovely drawing out of the way here and relaunch the poll so they can vote on another question. Okay, so you should have a new poll in front of you and another question from chapter 3, hopefully. The gap between neurons is called, this one should be easy, I hope. The gap between neurons is called what? Shouldn't even have to think or look in your notes for this one. The gap between neurons is called what? And it looks like 25 of you have put in a response, 26 now. And we're up 28, 29. So I am going to close the poll at exactly 1 minute there and share the results with you. And as you can see, 90% said A, or I'm sorry, number 1. And that, in fact, is the correct answer, as you can see by the highlighted bold there. So yeah, the gap between neurons, and that's where those neurotransmitters, whoops, go into. And let me relaunch the poll so that you can vote on this one. This one was kind of fun to play with as I was making up my question. Messages are carried across the synapses by little green men riding bicycles, texting, electrical charges, or neurotransmitters. Actually, I guess this is a bit of a trick question. If you have your BS detector on, you should realize that it's not number 1 or number 2. And I must be a good teacher because nobody voted for those two. What is that? Laugh out loud. But I think it's a choice between number 3 and number 4. And it looks like we have 26, 28 people who voted so far, 29. So I'm going to, we're up to 30 now. I'm going to end the poll, let you see the results. That 83% voted for neurotransmitters that carry messages across the synapses. And that is, in fact, the correct answer. Number 4, neurotransmitters are put out into the synapse by those terminal buttons, and uh, get absorbed into the next neuron. And I think I explained in depth why some people have depression, because certain neurotransmitter gets sucked back in too quickly. Yeah, I agree. Little Green Men is a good description, and I just had some fun playing with that. So, okay, let's give you another clean slate there. Should have popped up in the middle of your screen. And let me give you another question here. The section of the nervous system that is responsible for calming the body after a stressful response is what? Sympathetic, central, parasympathetic, or autonomic? What section of the nervous system is responsible for calming the body after a stressful response, or after a stress response? So looks like well, we have 24 people have voted already, up to about 27 now. Give it a couple more seconds here. And we're up to 30. So let me, 31. Let me end the poll and share the results with you. And 71% went for number 3, parasympathetic. And that is, in fact, the correct answer. Anybody remember my parasympathetic memory trick? What was the word that I kind of draw your attention to in your notes? Began with a P. Yeah, peace. Now, let's look at number 1, sympathetic nervous system. What's that responsible for? What was my little memory trick in your notes about the sympathetic? Well, yeah, it's responsible for fight or flight. Emily, yep, and Casey, good quick fingers on the keyboard there. The sympathetic, this thing, it speeds us up, and yeah, parasympathetic brings us peace. If you had a parasympathetic heightened, could you get an issue in your brain like a stroke? Um, a stroke is actually most likely caused by some piece of fat or something breaking off and plugging one of your little veins up there. That's probably what happened to my mother, that created her stroke. So I don't think actually the sympathetic nervous system speeding us up, that raises your blood pressure, your heart rate, that may actually trigger a stroke. I wouldn't expect the parasympathetic that brings peace. Whoops. Parasympathetic brings peace. I wouldn't expect that to trigger a stroke. Okay, so let me relaunch the poll here. Yeah, yeah. I think I mentioned it for you women. If you're taking the pill and you're a smoker, you're at a very high risk for smoke. I knew a guy whose daughter, she was in college and she had a stroke. And I don't know for sure. Yeah, vapes. Oh my gosh. Um, Forget about the stroke. They just plain old cause a pulmonary, a lung problem that just plain old kills you. I think there's 8 fatalities already from vaping. So yeah, you don't want to get involved with that stuff at all. Okay, let me. Oops. With which? Yeah, there was a case of that from Oz. Yeah, it's bad. Um, which statement do you agree with? Children younger than 10 should be given medications to correct emotional or behavioral problems Most childhood behavior or emotional problems are not really disorders, are just part of just being a kid. What do you think? This again is sort of a fun one, not necessarily on the exam or kind of knowledge that you need to have. But I'm looking, looks like 22, 23 of you. Yeah, we're up to 25. Have put in a response so far. And yeah, let's, oh, we're up to 28. So I'm going to end the poll and show you that 64% of you voted for most childhood problems are just part of being a kid, basically. And I agree in a lot of cases. It's not a okay. I've grown up with ADHD. Yeah, attention deficit disorder. Some kids under 10 with real bad hyperactivity benefit from Ritalin and other medications, but I think a lot of times when a kid's behaving bad, sometimes they get thrown on medications when they're not really needing them. Had those till seventh grade, yeah. I mean, I think they can help people focus. Um, but during the summer, when you don't need them, shouldn't be taking them. On weekends, when you don't need them, shouldn't be taking them. I don't think people make should be taking meds if they don't really need them. Reminds me of borderline personality. A young person can have all the symptoms and not have the disorder. Exactly. Um, medications I went to high school, yeah, they help, but they also hurt. Yeah. And yeah, eating these Ritalin takes away your appetite, and it's uh, eh, any medication has side effects that we probably don't want present especially with a young kid, for gosh sakes. So, okay, let me give you a new poll here, and um, how about a new question too from chapter 4, I think. Uh, Oh, this is a quick one. Sorry. Assuming we had the technology, should we be allowed to clone humans? What do you think? Yeah. And who should we clone? Ladies are saying Brad Pitt. Guys are saying Angelina Jolie. Uh, yeah, okay. And since this was a fun one, 29 of you have answered already. So I'm going to let you see the results. And as you can see, 86% of you said no. And the thing with clones is that the clone won't turn out exactly like the original. Genetically, they're going to be the same, but they're going to be raised differently than that original. And, I've heard of people sort of, yeah, pure dystopia. Um, I've heard of people saying, oh, welcome back. Um, I've heard people saying, if we need an organ donated, and you can clone a person and they can harvest the organ or something, shouldn't we do that? I don't know. I'm a little leery of those kinds of ideas. So it comes down to, I don't know, probably individually we each come to a different decision. Reminds you of a movie you watched in middle school, Casey. And I'm kind of glad that we think about these things and ask the questions, because at some point we're going to have to answer these questions. And it's kind of like when I said, should we be allowed to use subliminal perception if there is such a thing, should we be allowed to use it in political campaigns or to make you buy popcorn at the movie theater? I just kind of question the ethics of all that. So, okay, let's, I think finally I have a question from chapter 4, which we just covered in class over the last couple of days. The parts of the eye that can only detect black and white and shades of gray are the what? Cones, rods, iris, vitreous humor. And it looks like 24 of you have put in a vote already. And so I am going to, we've got 28 people on record with a vote, 29, looking for a 30, and we just got 30. So let me end the poll. 31, there we go. Okay. And I'm going to share the results so that you can see 77% of you voted for rods, which is in fact the correct answer. Rods are responsible for black and white, and they operate in low light situations. And cones, anybody remember what cones detect? Go ahead, use the chat. Yeah, color. Yep. Boy, people whose names, oh, Brian broke the trend, but Miriam, and Madeline, who begin with M, quick fingers there. So, yeah, the cones, where is that? Cones are at the center of our retina, and here they are here. Cones are at the center of the retina, and they detect color. If you remember, I put the drawing on the board of, the C's in the middle here at the center, and R's kind of out here, the rods, and that blind spot has no rods or cones, so it's a blind spot. That's where the optic nerve leaves to carry messages to the Blue Band video. That explained it pretty well. Yeah, Sierra, the iris does let in light. It opens up to let in more light, and I just got drops in my eyes at 4 o'clock, and it kind of numbed them, actually. That apparently is the special kind of drop that I got. And yeah, you should watch Blue Man Group again. It's Rods and Cones if you're interested on YouTube. YouTube has everything, don't they? Okay, let's relaunch the poll here. And you should have cleared out so that, oops, let me get my drawings off the screen here. And we'll go on to another question, which is the blank is located at the rear of the eye and transforms light into patterns that we can see. I think everybody should get this one correct. And just as I say that, boom. Ay, 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 ay. Okay, well, what transform light into patterns that we can see? And okay, crossing your fingers on this one, eh? Okay, looks like we have 30 people have voted here, so I'm going to end the poll and show you the results. And as you can see, 63% voted for number 3, the retina. And that is exactly what I was looking for. And by the way, if you notice, I put bold in some of the words, rear of the eye. So that kind of knocks out the iris, which is really at the front of the eye. And yeah, This we know only exists with Blue Man Group. The optic nerve carries messages, but it doesn't really transform light into patterns that we can see. That's the rods and cones that are actually on this thing, the retina. Okay, so let's erase all that good stuff there. Oop, there we go. And let me give you a new poll. Again, I'm hoping the people on the recording are able to write down your answers. And let's see what the next question. Oh, whoops. I have no other questions. So it's your turn. What other questions do you have? Again, I'm looking at the chat area for you to be able to get the, that's interesting. Okay, there we go. What other questions do you have? Sizzle with the brizzle, yeah. What questions do you have? Again, looking for things from you guys. Will we have any scenario type questions on the test? In your last class, some of you had class today, some of you had class Thursday. I gave you a couple of experiments where you had to figure out what was the independent, dependent variable. I kind of like those kinds of questions. And what were the pioneers for psychology that talked about chapter 1? I think I mentioned Wilhelm Wundt and Freud. I would say look in your notes. You don't have to memorize all of them. There's that whole timeline of people. Um, you don't have to memorize all those people, but the people I gave you in your notes, maybe you want to take a look at. Is the test only multiple choice? Maya, and to everybody, the test is only multiple choice, no fill in the blanks. Is it important to know what year things happen? Absolutely not. This is not a history course. If I do give you a year, I'll have other things in the question. I'm not going to ask you what the year was. What concept has been most confused on previous tests taken by my students? Maddie, that's a good question. Boy, correlations and dependent and independent variables, I would say, are commonly confused. So remember that 3x5 card that you're allowed to have. You might jot some important information about correlations and those variables, the dependent and independent variable. Is the vocabulary words from the book on the test? You need to know the vocabulary, but I don't ask for a definition of things. I ask you to apply that vocabulary. I won't ask you to define a dependent variable. I don't ask that, but I give you an experiment and I say, what was the dependent variable? So you better know what a dependent variable, what the definition is. Gregory's saying that hour went by so fast. Oh my. Flattery will get you everything, Gregory, but you still have to earn your A. Will the exam focus more heavily on a certain chapter or equal amounts of each? Chapters 2 and 3 are heavily represented. Chapters 1 and 4 still have about 8 questions each on them. Should you know the neurotransmitters? Anya's asking. I would say you want to be familiar with some of those. I gave you, I think, 4. What was that? Dopamine. Oh, serotonin I started with. Dopamine, endorphins, and if something's at the end of the list, acetylcholine, probably not as important as things at the beginning of the list. Okay, still looking, see if there's any other questions. Not really seeing anything. Oops, do we need to know the ways to image the brain? Might be helpful to be somewhat familiar. And about how many, I know exactly, Maya, how many questions it will be, not how about. But yay, Nigel, thank you. Yeah, 51 questions. You can actually get 102% because each question is worth 2 points. So if you get them all correct, you get 102 points out of 100. So do your best. Oh boy, yeah, energy drinks, however, too much caffeine is probably not gonna, too much caffeine is going to lower your score. Uh, the appropriate amount of caffeine, which varies depending on who you are, may actually help you focus a little bit better. But don't do two monsters before you get in there. We got this. Yeah. Are there bonus questions? Coffee will help for sure. Yeah, especially if you bring me some. Um, yeah, caffeine doesn't affect you. Are there bonus questions? Actually, like I said, you can get 102%. So you can kind of get a bonus by getting them all correct. But there's no designated bonus question. Um, there's just 51. Well, actually answer number 51 on the flip side of our Scantron sheet. I'll show you that when you are taking the exam. I like my coffee. Actually, I drink it at home with chocolate milk in it. You got to try it sometime. It's really, really good. How much time do we have for the exam? You have um, the whole period. And most people take about, I mean, there's always a speed demon who's done in 20 minutes. Most people take about 30 to 45 minutes. On occasion, somebody takes the whole hour and 15, but actually, you'll be surprised, I think, to be done before an hour 15. But if somebody needs to take the whole time, as Gregory's saying, and even 5 minutes longer, I actually hold the next class out in the hallway a little bit and say, I'll give you maybe 5, maybe even 10 extra minutes if you need it. Take your time, exactly. Don't rush through the exam. Also, you want to be relaxed because I'll probably say it again at the exam, but more people miss items because of anxiety than they miss because of lack of knowledge. It's kind of like brain freeze. Anybody ever at a play or part of a play, you get brain freeze because of anxiety and you forget stuff. So work on staying relaxed. Take a break during the exam. I don't care. Yeah, anxiety for tests ruins you. And I just want to remind you, and I'll remind you before the exam as well, to just kind of had it today for AP. Uh, anxiety messes with your knowledge. So you want to go to your happy space and get yourself regular breathing. Use that parasympathetic nervous system to bring your peace and calm while you take the exam. Good night rest will help as well. Do not, what am I going to say next? What shouldn't you do? Anybody know in the chat area? Stay up all night. Do not stay up all night. Yes, don't pull an all-nighter. Don't go drinking the night before either. I missed a comment here. Let me scroll through it. Should we know the neurotransmitters? I think I answered that already. You want to know some of them, I think. Yeah, don't cram. You should have been studying all along. Um, okay, I think I'm going to sign up because my throat is. I'm going to sign off. My throat has uh, had a long day, and so I will see you depending on whether you're the Tuesday night, or Tuesday class or the Wednesday class. I'll see you at the exam. I hope, like I said, I hope it's been helpful to you. I will do this for each exam, and in a few minutes you will see. Yeah, thanks, Nigel. In a few minutes, I'll be posting this on YouTube if you want to review it at all. I'll be sending the link to your Hawkmail. So have a good night, study hard, make a good 3x5 card, and I will. Oh, Madeline. Oh, you're touching my heart there. Anyway, um, I want you guys to be successful. So I will see you at the exam. So have a great evening. Okay. See ya, V-Dots and everybody. Bree, bye-bye.